Yo, greetings, family. Salute, salute, man. We out here. Let me clean up a little bit. Uh, uh, uh. Boom. All right, man. We reading this book today. King, warrior, magician, lover. The best-selling, widely heralded, Jungian introduction to the psychological foundations of a mature, authentic, and revitalized masculinity. This book is awesome, people. Um, I got a message. And so we need a pen. Let's flip this. 1 second. We need a pen to get into our notes. I am also YouTube. I'm gonna let y'all know I'm also live on Facebook via the glasses, so you'll get to see my words if you want to read the page. But for now, we back forward. Salute. So we're gonna jump right into this, family. I'm gonna do a little bit of a brief reminder where we came from. We just read about the crisis in masculine ritual in chapter one, part one, chapter one of part one, and he pretty much talks about getting yourself together using ritual space as well as um, passed down tried and true rituals that come from elders. So in the ritual space, we need elders, and we need the space itself to be consecrated properly. There needs to be an ego death so for there to be a shift, just like the phoenix, and that shift is going to be from the ego itself running the show, kind of like boy psychology, into adulthood, man psychology, where there's a phoenix death of the boy ego, and there's a growth where the ego now serves the God self. There are requirements for initiation for the torch pass, being where we kind of go on a spirit quest. There's a wisdom within the culture that needs to be passed through, and so no man is an island, and we need to know that there are, parental wounds and daddy wounds and so forth that hold people stuck in recurrent cycles. So let's move forward into chapter two, the masculine potentials. Those of us who have been influenced by the thinking of the great Swiss psychologist Carl Jung have great reason to hope that the external deficiencies we have encountered. So basically saying the folks that study Jung really hope that what they lacking in the world as boys becoming men, such as the absent father, the immature father, the lack of meaningful ritual process, the scarcity of ritual elders, all them issues and lack and gaps that folks who study Young see. In Young, they see they can be corrected. So essentially, deficiencies can be corrected. And we have not only hope, but actual experience as clinicians and individuals of inner resources not imagined by psychology before Young. And so he's saying here, we not only hopeful, but we know via data through our line of work that it's not just made up, uh, you know, as individuals of inner resources not imagined by psychology. So yeah, they saying they bringing up some new stuff, new psychology. And then we move on to say it is our experience that deep within every man are blueprints, what we can also call hard wiring for the calm and positive, mature masculine. So he's saying that everybody, we got it in us. We got it in us, hard wiring to be calm and positive, mature masculine. It ain't like, some sort of striving that we need to do to become positive, mature men. It's already in us. We just have to tap in. So Jungians refer to these masculine potentials as archetypes or primordial images. And this is really key where we at right now. This is the title of the book. King, warrior, magician, lover. These are primordial images and archetypes. They all come with some images to help assist the mind bone in bringing it forth. Yeah. Jung and his successors have found that on the level of deep unconscious, the psyche of every person is grounded in what Jung called the collective unconscious. So everybody has this base level uh, collective unconscious, and the psyche of every person is grounded. And this makes up instincts, right? Instinctual patterns and energy configurations, probably inherited genetically throughout the generations of our species. Probably inherited genetically. These archetypes provide the very foundations of our behaviors, our thinking, our feelings. That's what I said, foundational. Foundations of our behaviors. Thinking, feeling, and characteristic human reactions. They are the image makers that artists and poets and religious prophets are so close to. Jung related them to the instincts of in other animals. Right. So every man can be calm, positive, and mature based on archetypes. And those archetypes are defined as instinctual patterns. Most every animal has instincts, as we assume. So we continue to go on into the collective unconsciousness, which is a base archetype, a foundational archetype for all archetypes. Most of us are, he says here, most of us are familiar with the fact that baby ducks, soon after they are hatched, attach themselves to whomever or whatever is walking at the time. That's the pair bonding. This phenomenon is called imprinting. Yeah, I said pair bonding. It means that the newly hatched duckling is wired for mother or caretaker. It doesn't have to learn from the outside, as it were, what a caretaker or mother is. So this is that base collective unconscious that we talked about. And in basic human psychology, we know that we all have a level of hardwiring or instincts. And for example, ducks, they imprint and they follow whoever right in front of them. The archetype for caretaker comes online shortly after the duckling comes into this world. Unfortunately, however, the quote unquote mother the duckling meets in the first moments may not be adequate to the task of taking care of it. Nonetheless, so it's basically like the hand you dealt ain't always gonna be the hand you need. You hear me? But nonetheless, although those in our outer world may not live up to the instinctual expectation, they may not even be ducks. The archetype for caretaker forms the duckling's behavior. So this is what's key. The archetype forms the behavior. Forget the duckling, forget the caretaker. Realize that as men, we have archetypes, and there is a basic foundational archetype for calm, positive maturity within the masculine. And this needs to be accessed through a particular series of rituals and ego death from boy psychology into man psychology. So staying here with the through line family, it would go on to say, in a similar way, human beings are wired for quote unquote mother and quote unquote father and many other human relationships, as well as forms of human experience in the world. So human beings are wired for relationships and experiences. Although those in the outer world may not live up to those expectations, the archetype is nonetheless present. So remember, even though it don't meet your expectation, it might not even meet your needs, it might not be fun, but it will be present. You know, these archetypes will be absolutely uh, uh, adhered to, and so we make it a a point so that the basics of our video our sorry the basics of our archetype as a foundation is constant and universal in all of us. We know that each person has within us the basic necessity to be good and righteous. And so moving forward, it says that it is constant and universal in all of us. We, like the duckling that mistakes a cat for his mother, mistake our actual parents as the ideal patterns and potentials within us. Boom, we broke through the veil, family. And that's where it comes through that human beings, we are wired for patterns, right? And so, just like the duckling might take whoever it sees as is born to be his mother or caretaker, we may mistake our parents, the ones who gave us DNA and birth. We may mistake our parents as the ideal patterns and potentials within us. And this is where we choose ritual elders. Archetypal patterns gone awry, skewed into the negative by disastrous encounters with living people in the outer world, trauma, that is, in most cases, by that is in most cases by inadequate or hostile parents manifest in our lives as crippling psychological problems. And so once we realize that we may have been dealt a bad hand, if our archetypal patterns are gone awry or they've gone off course, that may result in giving us trauma. Most cases, inadequate or hostile parents. Right. If we got parents that are still dealing with their childhood psychology, we may end up um, engaging in trauma. If our parents were, as the psychologist Winnicott says, good enough, then we are enabled to experience and access the inner blueprints for human relations in a positive way. So if they do meet the mark, we can experience, like we were talking about up here, experience and relationship. If the relationship is positive, then we may be able to experience and access the inner blueprints for human relations in a positive way. Sadly, many of us, perhaps the majority, did not receive good enough parenting. The existence of the archetypes is well documented by mountains of clinical evidence from the dreams and daydreams. What's this? The trauma we was talking about up here. That's why I be having to write stuff. I try to stop and keep reading to y'all. But right here it's saying, man, give thanks, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh. But up here, when we talking about the king, warrior, magician moving from boy psychology into man psychology for a positive masculine experience into maturity, we realize that just like ducks and other animals, all human beings have instincts. And one of those we're going to talk about the base foundational instinct, which is the collective unconsciousness. And in human beings, collective unconsciousness, we're wired for parents. And when we first are born, the parents that we get, that's what I was going to write, the hand we're dealt. The hand we're dealt may not be the winning hand in this game of destiny. But also that hand may not be the winning hand, but it's our hand. Those are our parents. But we have to recognize that parent does not equal ideal pattern for potential within us. They may be people who walk our walk with us. You know, our parents. But if they are good enough, if they are able to step into some of these, even hold ritual space for ideal patterns and potentials to emerge, then we may access the blueprints for human relations. So the existence is so this is real. You know, we know that archetypes are a real thing. Archetypes is well documented. You know, we got mountains of evidence from daydreams and dreams of patience, and from careful observation. So you got the liminal and the subliminal. Um, with subliminal here, liminal here, observations of entrenched patterns and behavior. It's also documented by in-depth studies of mythology, haha, the world over, which are, you know, morals and dogma that recur through storytelling. Again and again, we see the same essential figures appearing in folklore. Yes, repetition, archetype. You got the trickster, or the damsel in distress, or the overbearing father. These sorts of things. Those are archetypes in folklore and mythology. These just happen to also appear in the dreams of young people who have no knowledge of these fields. So people who don't even read about mythology and folklore, it come up in their dreams, and that's how we know that it's valid. Archetypes are well documented not only in the subliminal studies of dreams and uninhibited, what's the word? They're not influenced by studies in academia or culture. They're just the dying resurrection, like this. For example, the dying, then resurrecting young God, for example, is found in the myths of diverse people, such as Jesus Christ. You got the Muslim Persians with Harut Mazda, the ancient Sumerians, the modern Native Americans. They all have the story of the one who passed and resurrected. Heru, or was it Asar? Um, as well as in the dreams of those undergoing psychotherapy. So even people who don't read about it, it's in our DNA, it's in our gene code to know about the resurrected one. The evidence is great that there are underlying patterns that determine human cognitive and emotional life. So this paragraph pretty much just proves that archetypes are valid from both sides. These blueprints appear to be great in number, and they manifest themselves as both male and female. There are archetypes that pattern the thoughts and feelings and relationship of women. There are archetypes and patterns and thoughts and feelings that pattern the thoughts and feelings and relationships of men. So it's not just man and woman, it's both. In addition, Jungians have found that in every man there is a feminine sub-personality called the anima. The anima. In every man there is a feminine sub-personality called the anima, made up of the feminine archetypes. And in every woman there is a masculine sub-personality called the animus. And for my Latin scholars, we know that A is a feminine determinative and US is a masculine determinative. Four gendered words made up of the masculine archetypes. All human beings can access the archetypes to a greater or lesser degree. We do this, in fact, in our interrelating with one another. Relationships. This whole field is being actively discussed and continually revised as our knowledge about the inner instinctual human world moves forward. We are just beginning to sort out in a systematic way the inner human world that has always manifested itself to us in myth, dreams, and visions. So we just now starting to get a hold on this subliminal stuff. The field of archetypal psychology is in its infancy. We want to show men how they can access these positive archetypal potentials for their own benefit and for the benefit of all those around them, maybe even for the planet. Prospect. Give thanks and family this. Give thanks and praise family this book. Chapter 2 of part 1 has been King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, Rediscovering the Archetypes of the Mature Masculine. Join me next time as I read more of this fantastic book and we discover how to grow from boys to men. Next time we're going to talk about the divine child. We're going to get into these archetypes and actually name them. Whoa, this is the fun part. I remember reading this and I look forward to going through it again. Alright, like, subscribe, share, comment. Thank you. Those who joined. Yeah, looking for mods. We got weirdos out here. Salute.